You looked in a mirror today, and for about 2 seconds, you looked straight at your own eyes. You know their color by heart. Brown, blue, green, hazel, something in between. But if your eyes are blue, here is something strange. There is no blue in them, none. Not one molecule of blue pigment anywhere inside your eye. Human eyes carry exactly one family of pigment, melanin. And melanin only ever runs from brown to black. Everything else you think you see is a trick of light and architecture, and that trick is not the strangest thing hiding in there. Every eye color carries a quiet advantage, a real one measured in laboratories. So what is the hidden advantage of every single eye color? Brown, blue, green, hazel, and the rare ones almost nobody has. By the end of this, you will never look at your own eyes the same way again. Start with the strangest color of all, blue. Your iris has 2 layers, a dark back layer and a front layer called the stroma. The stroma is a loose mesh of collagen fibers packed together like the surface of frosted glass. In a brown eye, that mesh is packed with melanin. Light goes in and gets absorbed. In a blue eye, the mesh is nearly empty, almost colorless. So light dives in, hits those tiny fibers, and scatters in every direction. Short wavelengths scatter hardest against those fibers, and blue scatters hardest of all. The blue bounces back out at you. The rest is swallowed by the dark layer behind. This is the Tyndall effect, a close cousin of the scattering that paints the sky. Your blue eyes and a blue sky are the same trick at different sizes. Grind a blue iris into powder and the blue disappears. There was never anything to grind. Scientists call it structural color. It is why a blue jay's feather is blue too. No paint, just architecture and light behaving exactly the way light behaves. Now, some of you are thinking, my eyes are gray, not blue. Gray usually means a denser mesh scattering every color a little more evenly. Same physics. But that density was never your choice. It was set by a single genetic switch. In 2008, a team at the University of Copenhagen, led by Hans Eiberg, went hunting for it. They found it, and it was far smaller than anyone expected. It sits in a gene called HERC2, right beside a gene called OAK2. OAK2 is one of the main melanin factories your iris uses to color itself. HERC2 holds the dial that tells that factory how loud to run. One tiny change turned the dial down, not off, down. Less melanin in the stroma. The mesh clears, the scattering wins, blue. Here is the part that stops people cold. Every blue-eyed person they tested carried nearly the identical stretch of DNA around that switch. Not similar, the same. That is the fingerprint of one mutation in one person 6 to 10,000 years ago. Which means, genetically speaking, every blue-eyed human alive today is related through that one ancestor. Let that sink in. Roughly 1 in 10 people on Earth sharing one ancient accident. Before that, as far as we can tell, human eyes were brown, every single one. Quick question while we are here. What color are your eyes? Put it in the comments. Now this is where most explanations stop and where most of them get it wrong. Eye color is not one gene with a simple on and off. In 2021, researchers led by King's College London scanned almost 193,000 people. They hunted for every scrap of DNA that nudges eye color even slightly. They found 61 separate regions of the genome. 124 independent signals. 50 of those 61 regions had never once been connected to eye color before. So that school lesson, 2 brown-eyed parents cannot have a blue-eyed baby, is simply false. Your eye color is not a coin flip. It is a mixing board with dozens of sliders. Some sliders control pigment, others control the shape and texture of the iris itself. It is why 2 siblings can land on completely different colors. And it is why almost nobody's eyes are one flat shade up close. Lean toward a mirror in daylight. You will see spokes, rings, freckles, a whole hidden pattern. That pattern beats a fingerprint for uniqueness, and your own 2 eyes do not even match. Subscribe before the next part, because this is where eye color stops being trivia and starts being medicine. Which brings us to the color the whole world started with, brown. Somewhere between 70 and 80% of all humans alive right now have brown eyes, and brown is not the boring option. Brown is the armored option. Melanin in your iris does exactly what melanin does in your skin. It absorbs light. More melanin means less stray light bouncing around inside your eyeball. Practically, that means less glare. Dark eyes simply squint less. That is not folklore, that is absorption. And it goes deeper than comfort. That pigment shields the tissue behind it. Uveal melanoma is a rare cancer that grows inside the eye itself. A 2006 meta-analysis put light irises at roughly 1 3/4 times the risk of dark ones. Add heavy ultraviolet exposure and that gap widens further. Iris pigment also looks protective against age-related macular degeneration and against cataract. Careful with that word, protective. It shifts the odds. It does not make anyone immune. Brown-eyed people still get eye cancer. Most blue-eyed people never will. There is a stranger finding too, and people have argued about it since the 70s. In 1974, psychologist Morgan Worthy proposed that dark-eyed people simply react faster. Later work, including a study of rugby league players, backed that up on reactive tasks. Light-eyed people did better at self-paced tasks. Golf, bowling, a pitcher on the mound. Now, honestly, those samples were small, and the effect is still disputed. Treat it as an interesting pattern, not a law of nature, but it points at something bigger, and this is the turn of the whole story. Your eye color is not a feature, it is a readout. It is a gauge, showing how much melanin your iris happened to build. Every advantage in this video comes from that one number, the dose. Melanin is not decoration. It is a filter, a shield, and part of a light control system. So the real question was never blue against brown. The real question is this: how much light does your eye actually let through to the back? Because that one setting charges a price at both ends. Turn it up and you get armor, but the world gets dimmer. Turn it down and the world gets brighter, but the shield thins. There is no winning setting, only a trade. And light eyes took the other half of it. Less melanin means more light reaches the back of your eye. In blinding sun, that is a real problem. Light-eyed people consistently report more sensitivity to glare. But the sun is not always blinding at dusk, indoors. In a northern winter afternoon that dies at 3 o'clock, a lighter iris passes more of whatever little light there is. That is one leading idea for why light eyes concentrated in cloudy northern Europe. It is a hypothesis, not a settled fact. Sexual selection is argued just as hard. Then there are the odd findings. These are the ones that go viral, so let us be careful. In 2014, Dr. Ina Belfer at the University of Pittsburgh presented a study on pain. 58 pregnant women, 24 with brown or hazel eyes, 34 with green or blue. The light-eyed group reported less pain around childbirth, less anxiety, better sleep. Belfer said it herself. The sample was too small to be compelling. There is a similar story with alcohol. In 2001, Bassett and Dabbs looked at over 10,000 men and nearly 2,000 women. Light-eyed people had consumed significantly more alcohol than dark-eyed people. A 2015 study at the University of Vermont linked light eyes to higher dependence risk. Hold on though, that is a correlation and a messy one. Both traits cluster in the same ancestry, and ancestry drags culture along with it, and higher tolerance is not an advantage anyway. It is a warning label. Which brings us to the rarest ordinary eye color on Earth. Green. Roughly 2% of humans have green eyes. 2. Green is not a pigment either. Green is a blend of two very different things. A little melanin, a yellowish pigment called lipochrome, and that same blue scattering. Blue light coming out, passing through a faint yellow filter, reads as green. Hazel is the same recipe with the melanin dial nudged up and spread unevenly. That is why hazel looks brown near the pupil and green or gold at the rim. Their advantage is the most practical one in this whole video. They sit in the middle. Enough pigment to blunt the worst glare. Little enough to keep dim light usable. There is a social advantage too, and it is not nothing. Rare colors get noticed. Green and amber eyes are called memorable across cultures. Being remembered is a real advantage. It just is not a biological one. Some eyes ignore the rulebook completely. Heterochromia. Two completely different colored eyes, or a single eye split into two colors. It feels common because you have seen the photos. It is not. One study examined high-resolution photographs of more than 11,000 people. It found clear heterochromia in about 6 in 10,000, roughly 1 in 1,500. It happens when melanin is delivered unevenly in development or after an injury or illness. Quick myth check, David Bowie did not actually have heterochromia. A teenage fight left one pupil permanently dilated. Same eye color, different pupil size. At the far end of the dial sits albinism, where melanin is drastically reduced or absent. It affects roughly 1 in 17 to 20,000 people worldwide. Those eyes can look pale blue, gray, even reddish when light catches the vessels behind. And it carries real costs: severe light sensitivity and reduced sharpness of vision. This is the honest end of the story. The dial does not only hand out gifts, which explains one last thing you've probably noticed in your own mirror. Some mornings your eyes look grey and flat. Some evenings, in the right lamp, almost green. You did not change, the light did, and so did your pupil. Widen the pupil, the iris fibers compress, and the scattering shifts. A blue shirt, a grey window, a warm lamp. Your eyes borrow all of it. So here is what to do tonight. Stand close to a mirror, put the phone down, lean in until you can actually see the fibers. You are looking at a mesh of collagen fibers that was laid down before you were even born. It has been quietly metering light for you every second since, and you never adjusted it once. Brown got the armor, blue and grey got the dark, green and hazel got the balance. You never chose the color, it was chosen for you, thousands of years before you existed. You just inherited whatever setting you were given and looked out through it your entire life. So tonight, look again. Not at the color, at the machine behind it.